Hello everybody, my name is Dennis. Welcome to my channel. First, I want to start by saying thank you to everybody that subscribed to my channel. I've passed the 100 subscriber mark, and my intention now is I'm going to figure out what it's going to be. I'm going to have a giveaway. I'm not sure what the product is going to be or how I'm going to do it. Maybe I'm just going to I'll do a game code or something like that from Steam. I'll do it through Twitter, so you can send me something and I'll pick a name and we'll go from there. But we're not doing that yet. We'll do that probably, well, once I decide what I'm going to give away or what I'm going to do. Anyhow, in the meantime, got a little bit under the weather, so this week's video is not what I was going to do. So instead, I'm going to do a product review unboxing on a Bitfenix Shadow Case. So hope you enjoy that. Stay tuned for the giveaway coming up. And now off to let's see what this case is all about. Okay, so just having a quick look at the box. Of course, we can see that it shows you have a magnetic door in the front and room for putting in a 5¼ inch optical drive. Okay, it talks about the switchable LED accents in the front so you can change the colors. You got ample room for storage and for long graphics cards. So let's go inside and see what's there. Okay, so having the first look at our case, one of the first things to notice is it opens on the side here. It's magnetic, like I said before. You got room for 2, 3 optical bays or whatever else you might want to put in there. Okay, it's a really nice strong magnet. Of course, it's got the Bitfenix symbol, and you've got some slots here for air cooling. Your LED lights up the bottom here. And we'll move up to the top and see what the controllers are on the top. Okay, moving to the top of the case, of course, we can see our hard drive indicator, okay, for activity, and hard drive light. All right, so then you've got your headphones and mic. You got USB 3.0 and USB 2.0. So 4 in the case, which is quite nice. And then these are your controls for your RGB for the case. And of course your power and your reset buttons. So for a mid-level entry case, I got this on Black Friday. Pretty good buy overall. Okay, so we'll move on to the side of the case and have a look on the inside. So moving on to the side of the case, we have 2 thumb screws here. Okay, so they're not captive or nothing like that, which I prefer personally. Certainly snug, that's for sure. And then you just gently pull this back. Okay, so that was a bit snugger than it should have been. It seemed like it was stuck almost. So what I did is I just leaned it on its side and I just gave it a good pull and it came off. So it's a good sturdy construction. Okay, nothing special about it. Just it's matte black, which is nice. So we're going to move on and have a look at the inside of the case here. So as we move into the inside of the case, I got a plastic bag here just holding all. Normally it's a box, but that's okay. It's a little twist tie here, so we'll get that off. All right, so once we get it off, you can see all our thumb screws and of course the little pamphlet about the quick installation and all that kind of good stuff. So the screws that come in your little baggie there, you get 6 32 long screws for front fans. You get 4 of them. You get 6 32 flat screws for the motherboard and hard drives. You get the 28. And you get 6 hex screws for power supply and the PCI bracket. You get 6 of those. And you get the M3 round screws for your optical disk drive or an SSD. And you get your motherboard standoffs if you need them for a micro ATX motherboard. And they're brass. And you get 2 of those. Alright, so that's all that's inside that bag. Now something that's caught my eye on this case, it's something I've only seen before in Corsair cases, is you have a built-in stand-in. So you can set your motherboard on it, and then that'll kind of lock it in place while you fasten everything down. It's a nice add-on for a Bitfenix case. I don't think I've seen that in other cases. But it certainly helps when you're doing your installation for your motherboard. Now when you're putting an optical drive in, basically they tell you to turn this clockwise. Alright, take it out, slide your optical drive in, okay, line that back up with these holes, okay, and then just turn it counterclockwise to lock it back in place. Okay, so just lock it back like that. And that way, that goes in, this goes inside, locks it in place, and your optical drive isn't going to move. And as you can see, you got room for 3 here. And you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 down here for hard drives. And on the bottom, we'll turn this so you can see it. It's a little tricky to see. Oh, let me just get in here. So their intention is for you to put an SSD in the bottom. They got 4 holes here. Okay, so you put your SSD in the bottom down here. So down here, and on the bottom underneath the case, you have your holes, so you can put your SD in and mount it down the bottom. I guess mechanical drives, being that they're much less prone to damage, why not? It gives you more room for putting in lots of hard drives if that's what you want to do. Now, having another look inside the case, you got all your cables. Okay, so you got your USB 3.0, all your typical connectors for your hard drive, your power, reset, all that good stuff, and of course your audio. And for your fans, which is nice, you connect it with your SATA. That way you're not using, they got rid of the Molex, which is a nice step in the right direction. Now this is considered a mid-level case. It's a pretty darn good case, I have to say. Okay, so one of the things I noticed is this came inside with all your screws and everything. And I have no idea what that's for. So if somebody out there knows what it's for, please leave me a comment. Share it so other people can figure out what that's for. I really don't know. Okay, so down on the bottom here, you've got 2 fan filters. Okay, so this one, and they just pull up. They're just kind of notched in there. And then, of course, if you put a fan in here, 120 millimeter fan, then it's a filter for that as well. Of course, you fit your power supply in here. You can put a full ATX power supply in there. So as you can see, you have a 120 millimeter rear exhaust fan on the case. Now the connector for it is a 3-pin. And of course you got your cutout here for your motherboard or I/O shield. Depends on what you want to call it. I call it both. Depends on my mood. Okay, so having another look at the bottom of the case, you've got your air ventilation here for where your fan, your filter is on the top, like I showed you there a second ago. And of course your air filter for the other, if you want to add another fan. And of course your screws here for your SSD when you mount it on the bottom. Nice rubber feet, nothing special about them, but sets it off the ground just a little bit. I'm going to move back to the front. There's a couple of things I just want to show you still. Okay, so something else to show you in the front here is it's got a removable filter. So you just push in there, that comes out. Okay, it's a nice little filter. You can just take that out if you want to. You got little tabs here on the side, or you can just blow it out or whatever, wipe it down, whatever you want to do. Goes back in the same way. On the inside here, you've got another 120 millimeter fan with room for 1 more. It does not accommodate 140 millimeter fans, just so you know. Now, just to point out, there's a couple little slots here, which of course is where these little slots are going to go into. So when you put it back in, it just slides in there, and you just push it back in. All right, and of course, close it up, and you're done. So I want to show you one more thing on top of this case that I mentioned, but I want to clarify just so I make sure I mentioned it properly. So I wanted to mention the fact, I went over these here, but I just wanted to re-emphasize what it was. So this button here is your LED color change button. So you can change the color that comes out of the bottom. So it comes out of the bottom of the case. So you can change your colors here. And of course you can turn it on, okay, and off with this button here. So if you don't like the LED, you want to turn it off, you certainly can go ahead and do that. Okay, so one thing I'll just point out to you, if you want to take this off, okay, to remove the front panel, you just simply pull. Okay, so you can see right here, so you're going to pull this up, and it's going to open. Okay, so it takes a little bit more force than I like to pull it off. And one thing I want to point out, now this is something that sometimes to me, I'm just going to move this in so you can see it better. Then to me it's a big drawback on this case. One thing I don't like is you can see here, your cables are connected in here. So that's okay, but I can notice it right here that this is on there, but I think this could easily become dislodged. It actually kind of looks like it's crooked already, so I'm going to have to check that to make sure it's actually connected properly. So, because you can get it this, there really is no reason to need to take this off. But I just want to point it out because I prefer this when it's connected somehow on the other side and it doesn't impact taking this off in any way, shape, and form. But just something I wanted to point out. So I did have another look at this, and when I pulled this out, this actually did dislodge just a little bit. So if you take it off and you're having issues later on, you might want to double check this. I just had to push this side in a little bit, and that was all. This is for your audio, so of course, if that was to pull off, you want to check that too. So if you're having problems with the audio or power or USBs or anything like that, you might want to just double check your cables. Just a little tidbit, just in case you're having any issues. But I don't think you will. I think it's pretty straightforward. And of course, putting it back on is pretty much the same. You got your little holes down here. Okay, let me just show you this. Because you got holes here and on the top and on the bottom. So you got your little spacers here. See how they go in there? Now the nice thing about this is these are metal. Okay, this one on the top is plastic, but one on the bottom. So two of them are metal. So I mean, it's going to hold on. It's going to last longer than maybe some other cases. So I'm just going to slide that back in, making sure this goes in through the holes a little carefully. Line these up, and it's just a matter of just pushing them back on. Okay. All right, so you got to give it a bit of a pop. All right, doesn't hurt it. And now everything's back where it needs to be. And of course, when you put the front of the case on, make sure it's flush. Because if it's not flush, it's not completely on. And you're going to have issues. Okay, so moving on to the other side. You've got the same two screws here. So you just learned they're pretty tight. So you might need a screwdriver just to undo them. So I'll go and get that. Okay, so loosen them with a screwdriver first. And then you can just take these off. And of course, okay. That shouldn't happen. But anyhow, that's what happens sometimes. So you should have pulled this off and it come on. So I guess when they put this on, they obviously didn't put it on quite right. Doesn't impact anything, but okay, same thing as the other one. A nice solid panel. I guess I was just off so you have a little dramatic flair for the video. What do you call it? Okay, so you get the other case fan. So there's your connectors, the 3-pin. Okay, so no problem there connecting it. Now, the one downfall I'm seeing in this case is there's not a lot of room here for your cable management. So it's very tight. So now it does cut in here a bit, so you can hide your cables in here as much as you can. Tuck them in through the bottom here. All right. So if you tuck your cables in through here, you've got an indentation here for some cables. It will probably work out all right. Doesn't have a lot of tie downs. I'm not seeing hardly any at all, actually. So that kind of another issue. Okay, so as I said, you got your cutouts here, and I'm wrong in terms of this here. I thought there was a cutout for your motherboard here, but there is a bit of a slot here, so you might have to run your cable in through here first to get your 8-pin power for your motherboard. Put it into this slot first before putting in your motherboard, because I think if you try and do that otherwise, because your screws are kind of lined up along here, then you're not going to be able to get it in. Okay, because your connector is a little bit wider than even the size of this. So that could be a problem. So just something to keep in mind. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the back of the case. Okay, so on the back of the case, of course, like I pointed out before, you have your I/O shield or your motherboard backplate, whatever you prefer to call it. You have your ventilation for your rear I/O. You've got a couple cutouts for water cooling, although I don't think this case, in my opinion, is the greatest case for water cooling, but that's up to you to decide. You have your slot here for your power supply. Okay, normal connectors. You got just for your 4 screws in the back. I know I'm moving around the camera, so sound's coming from one side, not so much the X, but sorry about that. And that's pretty much it. You've got all your cutouts here for your graphics cards or any other thing you want to add in. Different adapters, whether it be your wireless adapter so you don't have to have hardwired and the one that I have done a preview on before for wireless AC and Bluetooth. You can have a look back on that. I can put a link at the bottom if you'd like to see that. And we'll move on to the inside of the case one more time. So just something else to point out. You've got your big cutout. It's not huge, but it's a good size enough to work with if you want to put an external CPU cooler on the back. You got the cutout here, so you'd be able to do that. Now, something else I want to point out that did not come with this case is your hard drive. It's toolless. Okay, so they just slide in here and lock in place with these tabs here. Same as for your optical drive. So you don't need hard drive brackets or anything like that. Trying to figure out how they go in. Alright, so just give me a kind of different look. And this is just your look inside with your cables, of course, going down to the front of the case. So you have to work around that a little bit, but it's not a big deal, I don't think. Some of you, you can decide for yourself whether you think that's a big deal or not. So I'm going to give you a little bit of dimensions and details on this case, so let's move on to that. So finally, some of the details of the case, just in case people are interested. It's steel and plastic. Of course, the color is black on black. Dimensions are 190 by 440 by 506 millimeters. Again, the motherboard sizes are ATX, micro ATX, and mini ITX. You have 3 5¼ inch drive bays and 7 3½ inch drive bays and 1 2½ inch drive bay on the bottom where you can mount it from the bottom. Your cooling in the front, you can have 120 millimeter times 2. You get one fan that's included. Cooling on the bottom, you can have 120 millimeter, which is you get one included, or 92 millimeter times 1, or 80 millimeter times 1, which I don't see people use very often, but you could. Has 7 PCI slots. Your I/O, you have USB 3.0 times 2, and you have 2 USB 2.0, and of course your HD audio. Power supply in the bottom is a PS2 ATX. The bottom, multi-direction, so you can put it however you want. Normally only goes one way, so I'm not sure why they say multi-direction. Maybe that just makes it sound better. The extras, of course, is the soft touch surface treatment. The nice thing about that is, of course, it doesn't seem to pick up on fingerprints very well, so that's a good thing. You got your removable dust filter, your tool-free drive locking mechanisms for your hard drives, and of course you got your red and blue LEDs. So it's only the two colors that it comes as, red and blue, just to keep that in mind. And that is pretty much the specs and the overall look of this case. So something else I just wanted to mention is if you're putting a graphics card in here, you need to know that it will accommodate up to 320 millimeter GPU. All right, and if you're going to put a CPU cooler, you've got clearance for 165 millimeters. So from the back to the front, 165 millimeters, and from side to your cage, you have 320 millimeters for your GPU. That should accommodate most GPUs, but if you have any problems, unfortunately, this does not seem to be removable. It's all riveted in place. Of course, you could mod it and take that out, but generally speaking, most people aren't going to do that. So just to point that out. Now, some of the downfalls in the case that I pointed out, biggest one being the cable management on the back. My suggestion is get your power supply, one of the ones that has the flat cables. If you get the flat cables, very much like these cables here where they're all nice and flat, then when you put them up, if you're going to put in for your motherboard, your 8-pin, and if it's a flat cable, it's going to fit nicer on the back. It'll give you more clearance without having any issues of putting the side panel back on, and it'll give you more room to work with. Just a suggestion. All right, everybody, so that's it for the case for the Bitfenix Shadow. Now, keep in mind, there is no radiator support in this case. So if you're going to buy a radiator and put it in, other than, of course, buying like a 120 millimeter to replace where the rear exhaust sets, or maybe on the bottom if you want to mount it from there, you could do that. But you're not going to get a 240 or 280 or anything like that. Radiator support, it's just not there. Overall, I like the case. It's got some cable management issues, but I kind of like it. It's not great, But for just a general build, keep in mind to have the flat cables with your power supply. It'll make that a little bit easier in the back. And that's it. So if you like this video, guys, hit that like. If you don't, you know what to do. Subscribe if you want to see more of my videos. Stay tuned for my giveaway coming very soon. I'm going to work out what it's going to be. Pretty sure it's probably going to be like a game code or something like that, where whoever the winner is, once I announce it, you will decide what the game is going to be. So it's not going to be a $10 game or anything like that. You will decide what game it is. We'll go, preferably, I'm going to try and go through Steam because it's the easiest one to do. I will purchase it for you once we've communicated back and forth, and we'll send it to you as a gift. Stay tuned. Thanks for watching the video. Hope you enjoy.